Hello and welcome. I'm Melinda Kinlami. Tonight, former President Olusegun Obasanjo calls for peace among former and present political gladiators. Minister for Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, says the country is in safe hands under the leadership of President Muhammadu Buhari. Taxi driver loses his life in Port Harcourt, River State from a police bullet less than 2 weeks after a similar incident in Edo State. And Iran's judiciary chief calls for a probe after 66 persons were feared dead from a plane crash at the Zagros Mountains. We begin tonight from Otueke in Bayelsa State, where former President Chief Olusegun Obasanjo is asking Nigerians to embrace genuine reconciliation in order to achieve peace and stability. The former president was speaking at a special church service at the St. Stephen's Anglican Church and the country home of the former president, Dr. Goodluck Jonathan. He also insists that Nigerians must learn from history at all times.
For the second time in 3 days, former Nigerian President Olusegun Obasanjo is in Otueke, the hometown of former President Goodluck Jonathan. This time around is at the St. Stephen's Anglican Church for a special church service. The teaching of the day touches on reconciliation at all levels of government.
If anything, any state is, if there's anything, any local government is, if there's anything that any family on earth is, particularly in Nigeria, is prayer.
While addressing the congregation, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo emphasizes the need for unity and oneness of the country, which he claims is only achievable through reconciliation.
We preach, we teach, we practice reconciliation. Then we will not have peace. And when we have peace, unless we have peace, we will not have unless we have development, we will not have growth. And if we will not have growth, we will not come out of the country.
Similar view is shared by former President Goodluck Jonathan, who highlights the beauty of the country's diversity.
If you listen to the radio, watch the television, and you go listening to the social media, then you feel as if the country is just hanging on a keg of gunpowder that can explode anything. I think the Syrians are giving us messages of unity that Nigeria is.
As for the governor, Seriake Dixon, Obasanjo's visit is an indication that Bayelsa is a peaceful place.
We are first at peace with ourselves, and also a state that is at peace with the rest of the country and the rest of the world. A state that is the epicenter of all things good, and a state that will say all good human beings are firstly from Bayelsa.
As the former president rounds off his 3-day visit to Bayelsa State, the lessons of reconciliation is one which hopefully should stay with the people for a while.
Senior citizens from the president's home state of Daura, Katsina State, have thrown their weight behind him in the run-up to the 2019 general elections. The senior citizens who met behind closed doors with the president in Daura, where he's currently on a private visit, expressed their support to the current administration. Governor Aminu Masari of Katsina State briefed journalists on the outcome of the meeting.
Also to show their solidarity and full support of his administration and the way he is carrying on. and also to assure the President that the senior citizens of Katsina, those of them who have served the federal, in the military, in the police, they will use all their connections to garner more support for the President and pray for the success of his administration. Also to respond to some of the issues raised by Olusegun Obasanjo.
Governor of Katsina State, Aminu Masari. The Minister of Information and Culture, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, says Nigeria is in safe and competent hands with President Muhammadu Buhari at the helm of affairs. He was speaking at a town hall meeting with the staff of the Nigerian embassy in Madrid, Spain, and some Nigerians living in that country. He dismissed what he described as the fake news being peddled on social media. In his words, and I quote, "Don't believe everything you read on social media. Nigeria is neither at war nor in crisis, contrary to what you may be reading on the internet. The Buhari administration is putting Nigeria on a solid footing after the years that were eaten by the locust." End of quote. He challenged the audience to assess the administration's achievement against the background of the tough challenges it has been faced with since coming into office. And the last has not been heard of the allegation of underage voting that marred the recently conducted local government elections in Kano State. The Kano State Independent Electoral Commission says it welcomes the decision of the Independent Electoral Commission to investigate the allegations. The state chairman of the commission, Professor Garba Sheka, says although the commission has not received any report of underage voting, it is willing to support any action that will resolve the issue.
We are also aware that the relationship between state electoral commissions and INEC is that of partnership, not of master and servant or leader or follower relationship. So, but despite all this, we decided to support and comply, as well as give all necessary support to the committee. We are waiting for the committee, and we are going to give all necessary cooperation to the committee so that at the end of the day, the record can be put very clear. And I'm sure that will bring out to light many of the false accusations made during the just concluded election in Kano.
From politics to security matters now. There was near pandemonium today in Rumukoro, Port Harcourt, the River State capital, where it was gathered that a taxi driver was allegedly shot by a police officer. The Commissioner of Police in the state, Zaki Ahmed, told Channels Television that trouble started when the driver allegedly obstructed the right-of-way of an oncoming police patrol vehicle. According to him, an officer who alighted from the van hit his gun on the body of the taxi, and it exploded with a bullet, killing the taxi driver on the spot. He also explained that security operatives have been moved to the scene to quell a possible escalation of violence while investigations are ongoing. The displaced people of Bakassi local government area may soon heave a sigh of relief as the first phase of their housing units is about to be completed. Constructed by the Cross River State government, the houses are meant to accommodate the majority of over 3,000 Bakassi returnees who have been staying in classroom for about 5 years.
It's 5 years since the displaced people of Bakassi local government area camped at this primary school. Through these years, they've lived their lives with their children under this unfavorable condition. Barely a few months ago, Governor Ben Ayade had come visiting, promising to provide shelter for the IDPs.
We have a situation where people live in an open hall in a primary school. You need to visit this site. It's such a shame that it's happening in the 21st century in a leading nation on the African continent. It is a shame that it's happening. If there is nothing I will achieve as governor, I have a moral and conscientious responsibility to prove to them that there's somebody who is ready to provide a shoulder for them to lean on.
Now, those promises are a reality as the first phase of the housing scheme is nearing completion.
We started with the first 36. That first 36 is what you see now, that they are at the roof level now. And the other 14, most of them are at the lintel level. So basically, I can conveniently tell you that more than 40 houses are within the range of roof level, and which I would definitely call 70% completion.
The displaced Bakassi indigents look forward to finally having homes of their own.
I love the way he's working, and we have endorsed him for the second term so that he can do more and more for us. We are very, very happy.
With the ongoing developmental project, hopes are high for a good number of the displaced Bakassi people who will, for the first time in many years, live in decent accommodations.
20 visually impaired women and 30 female entrepreneurs have been empowered by the National Center for Women Development as part of efforts to ensure self-reliance and productivity. The beneficiaries took part in a week-long training program in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja.
For 5 days, 20 visually impaired persons and 30 female entrepreneurs were at the National Center for Women Development in Abuja to be trained as entrepreneurs. With the completion of the training, the Director General of the center commends the efforts of the visually impaired participants.
I am indeed overwhelmed by the courage, effort the participants, including the blind, put to make this program a success. It proved that if given the right opportunity, we can do greater things, as it affirms that indeed there is ability in disability. I urge you all to practice what you have learned, to share this knowledge with others in your zone, as knowledge shared is knowledge gained.
In an emotion-laden voice, representatives of the visually impaired persons and the female entrepreneurs pledged to maximize the use of the knowledge gained at the training.
We are also promising on behalf of my colleagues that we are going to put this all the things with them, we are going to put this into practice, and we are going to let others know, and we are begging that we are pleading that this program should continue, and our fellow blind women who are not here the next time, that we should bring them along and we should increase our number so that they also will learn. Today, we can go out there and put our chest and say, yes, proxy the DG, NCWB, we have gone, we have funded, and we are going to go to work to expatiate on so many things we have been taught.
One after the other, the participants received their certificates and starter packs. As the participants depart the National Center for Women Development with the hope of becoming successful entrepreneurs, some beneficiaries are appealing for the expansion of the scheme to accommodate more visually impaired persons.
In part 2 after the break, 3 more people died from Lassa fever in Delta State as state government steps up effort to reduce the spread. Please stay with us.